Welcome to the National Pulse. I'm Raheem Kassam, editor-in-chief of thenationalpulse.com. And to quote the surfer rock dude Jack Johnson, questions. I've got some questions, and we have a lot of people able to answer those questions, especially about the stimulus and relief package. Joining us on the show today, Congressman Paul Gosar, Chris Buskirk, who's the editor of American Greatness. You can find them at a compliment to thenationalpulse.com. We work hand in hand, and Chris is somebody who really understands the deplorables, the America First movement, and really stands by the principles of that. Laura Loomer will also be joining us very shortly. She ran for Congress, of course, and in Florida, hot off the back of that, is returning to her work in investigative journalism. We can bring in Laura Loomer.
You know, 2 months or so ago, the New York Post broke the story about Hunter Biden's emails. And the story was twofold, of course, because it exposed damning information about Hunter Biden through his emails and his ties to the Ukrainians and Joe Biden's influence peddling. But it became a massive story when Twitter and Facebook both blocked and shut down the accounts of the New York Post and, said that they were going to be fact-checking the report. Well, there was always more to the story, and I was able to obtain some of Hunter Biden's emails, and in my exclusive report, I show how the Biden family has a relationship with Facebook executives, not only a political relationship, but also political business ties dating back more than a decade. And from the time that Joe Biden was president, Hunter Biden was using his father's access, and you can see the emails. I have the exclusive emails, the screenshots of the emails embedded in the report, and people like Chris Kelly, who was the first general counsel of Facebook and one of Mark Zuckerberg's closest advisors, emailing Hunter, asking to meet with him while he was meeting with Joe Biden on official White House business, right? And the purpose of these meetings were so that Hunter Biden, while he was working with his company, Rosemont Seneca, and Beau Biden, who has now since passed, could get millions of dollars in investment from, and these are their own words, Silicon Valley Dems. But what's most damning about this is that the founder of the Facebook office in Washington, D.C., he's now working for John Podesta. His name is Adam Conner. There are emails between Hunter Biden and Adam Conner in which Hunter asked Adam to ban accounts that he doesn't want on Facebook anymore. And so what's to say that Hunter Biden didn't ask these same Facebook executives, or Joe Biden that is, to ban the New York Post, to ban accounts that were posting the New York Post article, the expose about Hunter Biden's emails?
You know, Laura, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, I'm reminded of so many altercations that I have with leftists, whether it's on the streets of Philadelphia. I guess I'm just going to do a musical-themed show today. As I tweeted a clip of a couple of weeks back of this guy coming up to me, literally in the streets of Philadelphia, saying, "There is no laptop. You made the whole thing up. Russian disinformation, so on and so forth." And yet, every single day, more and more information pours out that shows the links between all of these people. The Chinese Communist Party, the big tech firms, right, Hunter Biden. And let me ask you this. If Joe Biden manages somehow to swerve the Constitution and the legal vote process and make his way into the Oval Office, what does this portend that Hunter Biden has this direct link to big tech companies? He can get them to do whatever he wants.
Well, these emails prove, and your viewers will have to go and read how damning these emails are inside my article to see the content for themselves, but it's no longer a conspiracy. If you have emails and you have evidence in front of your eyes, it's not a conspiracy. And the fact is that we have emails from Hunter Biden's laptop that now prove that the Democrats can have their political detractors and critics banned. All you have to do is have a connection with one of these executives, and you email them, and they will shut you down. And it's incredible because you see the connection with the D.C. lobbyists and the Democrat Party and Facebook. They're all the same people. So, like I said, the founder of Facebook's Washington, D.C. office is now working for John Podesta Center for American Progress, okay? He also worked for Joe Biden at one point when Obama ran for president in 2008. Okay,
Yeah.
these people are all intertwined. It's like a musical chair or a recycle bin. If you don't have a job in big tech, you go to work for the Democrat Party, right? And you see that through Facebook's own communications director, who originally issued the first statement about the New York Post story. He used to be a comms person for the DCCC
Right.
and the House Majority PAC under the Democrat Party. I mean, the evidence is here, Raheem, and it's time for people to stop saying that it's a right-wing conspiracy.
It's certainly some sort of conspiracy, but it's not a right-wing one. Laura, we've got to bounce. I know you're a busy lady at the moment. Just tell our audience really quickly, where can they still follow you, and what's the website that they should all be subscribing to?
So since I'm banned everywhere, you can follow me on Parler at Laura Loomer, and you can also subscribe to my website, loomered.com.
All right, you're going to be seeing a lot more of Laura Loomer. Her breaking news. We'll be having her on this show as much as she wants, quite frankly, because the idea of banning anyone as much as Laura Loomer's been banned annoys me so much that I will go overboard to Loomer the left. We'll be right back with more National Pulse. Congressman Paul Gosar in just a second. Welcome back. You might have noticed a slight change in scenery. I kind of like it. I like this better. Just to give you sort of an inside, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to, but just to give you an inside kind of scoop in terms of the way this works. That behind me, over there, is the real studio. And this is kind of, you sometimes see on the network, this kind of soft seating, more couchy area out here. The long-term viewers of this show actually will remember when it was being built and we flipped a camera from in there out to here. Now, something happened in there. I don't know what. I don't want to know what. I can't go in there today. So we're out here in this kind of main lobby area. It's a lot nicer. There's a lot more room. It's less hot. You don't have the fans blaring in the breaks. But I won't sit on the couches. I just won't. So they've put my desk and my stool out here as well. So I'm nice and comfortable, and I kind of like it. I might just sit out here every day. I want to get your thoughts on our set. I also want to bring in now somebody who has a lot of thoughts on the set that is America and the cash that is being expected to be poured into Pakistan and the Kennedy Center and Burma and Venezuela and lots of other pork. I know I can't say pork about Pakistan, it's not halal. but there is just such an extraordinary amount of nonsense, wasteful crap, excuse my French, in this latest stimulus package. And I've got to bring on somebody who's just been so vocal about this and not been scared to say, yeah, hey, I'm not for this. It's Dr. Congressman Paul Gosar, just a great friend of this show. Congressman, thank you for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me on, Raheem.
Let me channel the audience. Thank you for standing up to this nonsense. Give us the inside scoop. How did this even come together? How did it even get to this point where you have a public that's suffering? And I really do mean suffering from totalitarianism, shutdowns of their businesses, fines on fines and mask mandates and all of that. And on top of it all, the cherry on the turd cake, right, that's coming out of their representatives is, hey, here's $600. Shut up and go home, Congressman.
Oh, absolutely. That crap sandwich was filled with it. You know, giving $1,800 to illegal aliens. We didn't even touch the hotel and restaurant industry, the hospitality industry. Sending money overseas, here, there, and everywhere to the Kennedy Center that can't even take care of its own books properly. It's an outrage, and it shows you exactly what's wrong with Washington, D.C. And I'm hoping and praying, I signed a letter to with a number of my other colleagues, that Donald Trump actually vetoes that and makes us come back to do our work. And if we can't get our work done, we get a shutdown, and that government workers feel the pain that's happening to the rest of America, because we got to get back on track. The other thing we also have to do, Raheem, is we have to put an insight on how we're handling COVID. We have a vaccine out there. We now know who's most at risk. We ought to be getting it to them, and we ought to get America back to work.
So, I mean, how does it work now? The president has said that he's not happy about the way that this is come together and what it contains. What happens now? I mean, is that a veto? Is he threatening to veto, or is this softer language? And how does it? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, he sent it back. He sent it back to the Hill to say, listen, I want money. I want $2,000 in here, and I want some of this other stuff cleared out. So I'm sure we're going back on Sunday for Monday for work, because he's already said that he's going to veto the National Defense Authorization Act. So we'll be back there. So what he should do is just send it back and say, listen, start cleaning it up. I don't want this going all over the world. I want this aid tailored directly to the people that need it, and that we're going to set our sights to get America back to work again, because now we have all the opportunities to do that, Raheem. And, he said he wouldn't sign another one after the last one he did last year ago. So, now he's answering his promises. And I say, stand tall, stand strong. Go big or go home.
Pardon me if this is incorrect, but you'll correct me. I do believe that before the election, the way it was sort of suggested by Republicans was actually double the amount of money that we're now seeing in the current package offering. Not sure about all of the craziness in there as well, as in terms of foreign spending and Pakistani gender programs and Kennedy Center and all of this. But Nancy Pelosi said at the time that was crumbs, or has at least said that about that amount before in some kind of tax bill somewhere along the way. It said $1,200 is crumbs, and is now saying that $600 is significant. Is this specifically a Democrat problem with this bill, or is there a bipartisan problem with this bill?
I think it's bipartisan, but I tell you, she was the big culprit. If you remember, she said no to the president under the $1,200 earlier in September, and she refused. So this is about her, and this shows you all about what their wish list was all about. But it also shows you the complacency of the Republicans negotiating this bill as well. It's sad. Where is the liability for businesses in here? Where is that? We ought to be working hard on the American project, but this shows you exactly what the Democrats think. Never let a chaos cause you a problem. Always use it to your benefit.
Right.
And look what she's done. She doesn't care about people. She just cares about power. And hopefully that's going to be coming to a short reign soon. And
the ice cream in the ice cream freezer. Congressman, on that same note, and I want people to understand that this show is no friend of Ilhan Omar, and I've done entire monologues about Ilhan Omar, but she has tweeted in support of the president on this to say, hey, okay, fine, we're happy to go back to work and figure out how we get more money directly to the American public out of this, which I think is laudable. And if she's being honest about it, and if she's forthright about it, and she gets all of this nonsense, helps to get the nonsense out of the current bill, then more power to her on that issue. Congressman, we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to ask you about that, and if people can jump on board and in a bipartisan fashion to get this thing fixed. Also want to ask you more about where we stand with this election. Obviously, your state is one of the ones that we're looking at quite closely. In terms of, what can be done and what is the constitutional path now to solve all the problems. We'll be right back. More National Pulse, more Congressman Gosar in just a second. Welcome back to the National Pulse. We were discussing in the break. In fact, can we get producer Harry in here? If you were paying attention to your screens just before the break, you would have noticed this large shadow move across the wide shot. And it was none other than our very own producer, Harry. Senior Executive, what is your title?
I think Senior Executive.
Senior Executive Everything
also
Producer.
Goes on Harry's corner,
Exactly. Anything that goes right in here is because of me. anything that goes wrong. No, it's the other way around. It's the other way around. Thank you, Harry, for
Christmas, my
Merry
friend.
Christmas. Merry Christmas from Harry to the audience as well, and to Congressman Paul Gosar, who rejoins us in this segment here as well. Congressman, just before we went to break, I know there's a lot of silly business. Everybody's getting very giddy and excited for Christmas here, but there is serious business to deal with as well. And before I went to break, I talked about one of your opposite numbers in Congress, which is Ilhan Omar, tweeting in support of the president, saying, "Hey, I agree. Let's get more money into people's pockets." Is there a bipartisan solution here? Can the two sides come together?
Oh, absolutely. This is something where everybody understands. Listen, we've been promising these people over and over and again, the businesses. We've talked about remedies, whether it be the different therapeutics or the vaccines. So, it takes just a little bit of leadership here and a little bit of thought process here to know that America's hurting and America's got to be treated first. So I applaud her. I mean, she recognizes it, whether she's on the other side or not. I think there's a great way to get this done and make sure that it's tailored just for America, nobody else.
I think that's exactly right. I think that's absolutely and exactly right. And I just want to make very clear to my audience as well, that is the only thing ever that I've seen that I think I will ever agree with Ilhan Omar on. But hey, it's Christmas time, and this, in the spirit of coming together, let's hope it can get done. Congressman, I want to ask you now about the election and where we stand with it. A lot of people are very frustrated, remain frustrated, and questions continue to arise. What is the next situation? How do we get more people on board? Who is in support of President Trump? Are we hemorrhaging people? Are we growing the base? Are people going to come to D.C. on January the 6th? And constitutionally, what is going to happen on January the 6th? So in the best way you can, in the 4.5 minutes we have here in this segment, I realize it's a lot to cover. Congressman, where are we?
Well, I'm going to talk to you first about us, Arizona, one of the pivotal states. There is a meeting with a judge today in regards to this lawsuit that was filed by the County Board of Supervisors saying that they would not give the information to the state legislature. He basically laughed at them yesterday. So we're poised with forensic teams to go in here. We know where we're looking, because if we were to do a forensic audit, you'll see that there was front-ending of a bunch of ballots. And then what they did is they transferred ballots from Donald Trump to Joe Biden, and then also just didn't count some of Donald Trump's votes. Our governor and secretary of state has certified it, but then if that is the case and we bring out that information, they'll have certified a fraudulent slate. So the legislature will go back and do a different slate. Where you have that going on in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia as we speak. We're prepared on the 6th to say that no, we're not certifying the results as they currently stand. There's been fraud in there. We've got a number of members in the House. We have members in the Senate as well. And then when Vice President Pence oversees that, what will end up happening is for all 6 states that are vehemently going against it, they'll be given 2 hours on the floor time, 1 hour each to each side. And that usually ends up being about 3 hours in total because of the shifts and stuff. And we'll go through each 6 states in unison. So it'll be 18 straight hours of viewpoints. If we can't get a remedy, then what ends up happening, it ends up being in the House for selecting the president, and it's based off of 1 vote for the legislature. If it's a Republican, Donald Trump gets it. If it's Democrat, Joe Biden gets it. In that case, Donald Trump still maintains being president of the United States for the next 4 years because it's 28 to 22.
Would you care to prognosticate what will end up happening?
I can tell you what we're seeing here and what we're seeing across the board in all these states, the legislatures are fuming. They're absolutely fuming. In Michigan, you have the governor trying to keep them out of their own capital so they can't meet, so they're meeting on the side. We got our governor who's been very obstinate and trying to stalwart everything. So I will tell you, obvious fraud was here, and it was so embarrassing to say this. But there's also foreign involvement here. When you look at just the mere fact that the Dominion voting machines were actually bought by China in October, How is it that a foreign company is running our elections with their software where we know all the back doors they have are wide open? Why is that? So why were the custody of the ballots in jeopardy? Over and over again, this doesn't smell right. And over 50% of the American people say, listen, it was a fraudulent ballot. So let's get it on. Let's make it transparent. And let's make sure that the right person got the right votes at the right time and it becomes the next president of the United States. And it also may affect U.S. senators as well. Think about Michigan and John James. Think about Martha McSally in Arizona. So a lot of trouble here.
Right. Well, Congressman, I know we gotta let you bounce, but I'm really grateful for you joining us. I want to make sure that the entire audience is making sure they follow you on your social media. As Steve Bannon likes to say, runs pretty hot on Congressman Gosar's social media accounts, well worth a follow. And I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas to you and to your constituents,
Raheem,
to your whole family. Thank you.
Oh, we will, and all the best to you. We appreciate you, Raheem, like don't know.
Thank you, Congressman. I really appreciate it. And we'll speak to you soon. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have some breaking news coming to us right now, and excuse me for doing this live and trying to sort of pass this out live, but there is a letter that has come across my desk. It's from the Office of the Press Secretary, from the White House. I'm pulling this off social media at the moment from Forbes's news reporter in town, and it does appear that the president has vetoed the NDAA, that is the National Defense Authorization Act, for the fiscal year of 2021. I'm going to read you out what this letter says in full, so stick around and we'll get to that in just a second. I did also want to make mention of something the Congressman just said on air as well. Dominion maintains that it has no ties to China. It also says it has no ties to any other Cuba and Venezuela and beyond. But the point that's being made here isn't necessarily that these governments own these software companies, but where's the investment coming from? Big question mark still over all that. We'll get back to it. Welcome back to the National Pulse on what I think is going to be our new set. And I realized in the break why I like this set so much. This is Manchester United red, and this is the yellow that you find inside the Manchester United club crest. And I'm going to make the producers pull the club logo so you can all see it. Of course, you probably guessed it by now. I'm a Manchester United fan. Suck it, Arsenal. Right, back to the news here. This afternoon, breaking, the Office of the Press Secretary. This is a veto, what appears to be a veto of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2021. We're going to put it up on screen for you here in just a second, but I'm going to start reading it for you now. It says, to the House of Representatives, I am returning without my approval H.R. 6395, the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2021. The Act. My administration recognizes the importance of the Act to our national security. Unfortunately, the Act fails to include critical national security measures, includes provisions that fail to respect our veterans and our military's history, and contradicts efforts by my administration to put America first in our national security and foreign policy actions. It is a gift, in scare quotes, to China and Russia. No one has worked harder or approved more money for the military than I have, over $2 trillion. During my 4 years, with the support of many others, we have almost entirely rebuilt the United States military, which was totally depleted when I took office. Your failure to terminate the very dangerous national security risk of Section 230, that would be, I believe, of the Communications Decency Act, will make our intelligence virtually impossible to conduct without everyone knowing what we are doing at every step. The Act fails to even make any meaningful changes to Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, there you go, despite bipartisan calls for repealing that provision. Section 230 facilitates the spread of foreign disinformation online, which is a serious threat to our national security and election integrity. It must be repealed. Additionally, the Act includes language that would require the renaming of certain military installations. Over the course of the United States history, these locations have taken on significance to the American story and those who have helped write it that far transcends their namesakes. My administration respects the legacy of the millions of American servicemen and women who have served with honor at these military bases and who from these locations have fought, bled and died for their country. From these facilities, we have won 2 world wars. I have been clear in my opposition to politically motivated attempts like this to wash away history and to dishonor the immense progress our country has fought for in realizing our founding principles. The act also restricts the president's ability to preserve our nation's security by arbitrarily limiting the amount of military construction funds that can be used to respond to a national emergency. In a time when adversaries have the means to directly attack the homeland, the president must be able to safeguard the American people without having to wait for congressional authorization. The act also contains an amendment that would slow down the rollout of nationwide 5G, especially in rural areas. Numerous provisions of the act directly contradict my administration's foreign policy, particularly my efforts to bring our troops home. I oppose endless wars, as does the American public. Over bipartisan objections, however, this act purports to restrict the president's ability to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, Germany and South Korea. Not only is this bad policy, but it is unconstitutional. Article 2 of the Constitution makes the President the Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States, invests in him the executive power. Therefore, the decision regarding how many troops to deploy and where, including in Afghanistan, Germany and South Korea, rests with him. The Congress may not arrogate this authority to itself, directly or indirectly, as purported spending restrictions. For all those reasons, I cannot support this bill. My administration has taken strong actions to keep our nation safe and support our service members. I will not approve this bill, which would put the interests of Washington, D.C.'s establishment over those of the American people. It is my duty to return H.R. 6395 to the House of Representatives without my approval. That is the 2-page letter from President Trump sending Congress back the NDAA. I want to bring in Chris Buskirk, the editor-in-chief of the American Greatness website. What a wonderful, brilliant website, and some would say competitor. I would say complement to what we do here at the National Pulse, Chris, and we're very grateful to have you. That's breaking news, so sorry to have to break into this segment for so long with that. But I wanted to get your thoughts, and I didn't know if you would have read it all already, but now you know. So what do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to start by saying, right, no, not competitors. We're on the same team here, Raheem. So I think what we do complements each other very nicely. But look, on the substance of this thing, I hope that Donald Trump has sharpened his veto pen, because vetoing the NDAA is a nice place to start. All the things that he said are true. But then the COVID relief bill that was attached to the bill to
Chris, I'll tell you what,
keep the government open. Sorry?
Chris, sorry. Just give me what... I couldn't hear Chris there. I know the audience could, but go ahead, Chris. I think I got you now.
Yeah, so I'll just pick up where I left off.
Yeah.
Are you good on sound now?
Great.
Okay, very good. Yeah, look, what I was saying is I hope that President Trump has sharpened his veto pencil, because starting with the NDAA, that was a good place to start. The things that he described, the problems that he described in his letter back to Congress, sending it back to them with his veto, were absolutely right. And Congress has totally abrogated their responsibility to do the right thing with the NDAA vis-a-vis, for instance, Section 230, the bases, and basically what is an outright rebellion against the president's expressed wishes of bringing troops home. This is something that's very popular with the American people. Trump ran on it. It is his policy. He's the president. And they just ignore it. And this is the same thing that we saw with the Syria ambassador, with Jeffries, who says, we basically just lied to the president, conducted our own foreign policy, and isn't that hysterical now that we're past the election? It's not okay. I mean, the threats to democracy that Donald Trump supposedly represents actually reside within the deep state of this country, not in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, and at the same time, Chris, we hear from the talking heads on the left, and we hear every night on CNN, the president is acting in an unconstitutional manner. But that letter was pretty detailed. I wonder if we'll hear from Don Lemon tonight about the unconstitutional actions of the U.S. Congress, or attempted actions of the U.S. Congress, and the president's veto over the top of that. Chris, I've burned our time in this segment, but stick around. I know we've got you for one more, so I want to get your thoughts on a whole lot more that's going on at the moment. We're going to take a quick break. The breaking news is that President Trump has vetoed the NDAA. We'll see where that discussion and argument goes. And of course, he has, I think rightfully, said implied that he would veto the stimulus spending that's coming out of Capitol Hill as well, with all of the pork and nonsense that's contained within. We heard about that from Congressman Paul Gosar just a minute ago. We'll hear from Chris Buskirk about it in just a second. Stick around. We'll be back with more National Pulse in a moment. Welcome back to the National Pulse. I know you're all excited for the time off, quite frankly, and Christmas is... I'm a big Christmas person. I'm sure a lot of you have seen inside my living room over the last couple of weeks when I was doing the remote hits for the War Room in the morning with my, as Steve used to say, Dickensian Christmas theme. I've now even got the whole tree is just surrounded in Christmas presents. I've nearly finished all of my wrapping, which basically puts me ahead of most men, I think, on something like that. Remember, I think men, and especially men of Chris Buskirk's age, usually, what do you drive to the gas station on Christmas morning and just pick up a few things, Chris?
Pick up, I like to get a nice, maybe a TV guide, a couple of Slurpees, maybe a Monster. People are really surprised when that turns up in their stocking on Christmas morning.
Yeah, some wiper fluid, maybe a
right, exactly. Windshield wiper blades. My wife loves it.
In England, we sell, if you go to an English British Petroleum, they usually attach to Marks and Spencer's, which is actually quite a nice food and clothing department store. And so we have these wonderful, at these gas stations, prawn mayonnaise sandwiches. And I know the Americans out there will be going, oh, that sounds appalling. But I promise you, it's lovely.
It's the British equivalent of gas station sushi.
Basically, that's right. Got to have an iron stomach for it. Chris, I think a lot of people need to have an iron stomach for what trash they're being fed by their representatives on a daily basis as well. And I feel like a lot of people really felt particularly incensed this week about, it's Christmas time, it's the season of giving, and what did Congress give them? A big fat slap in the face. Right, this awful relief package, $600 in your pocket, not enough to pay some people's rent even, let alone the rent for the last couple of months, whatever bills they've been racking up, etc. It's living expenses, etc., etc. I want to get your thoughts. I want to get the thoughts of the leader of American Greatness. I want to make sure that our audience knows as well. amamgreatness.com, just a fantastic website. I check it every day. Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, look, it is my best way of describing what this COVID relief bill is basically a ritual humiliation. It is designed almost to show that Congress doesn't care about the American people, and that they're going to go through the motions just to show you we're going to do a little bit, but not enough to make a difference. And then they attach the COVID relief bill to a bill that is stuffed full of all kinds of other pork, like tens of millions of dollars for gender programs in Pakistan, $700 million for Sudan, $82 billion to prop up failed colleges and universities in this country that teach the kids that go there God knows what, but nothing good. It's just it's absolutely absurd, and this is getting a bunch of attention, well-deserved attention. By the way, I think Trump has threatened to veto it unless it contains at least $2,000 per person in relief, up from the 600, which I think is actually the politics of this, Raheem, are totally fascinating for the Republicans, because Nancy Pelosi said, yep, okay, that sounds good, we'll do it. And we'll pass it on a unanimous consent. But unanimous consent means that any member of the House can object. Right, it's basically kind of like a voice vote. If somebody stands up and just says, "Yeah, no, I'm a no on this," then they have to actually do a roll call vote. And that there are a bunch of Republicans who are just like chomping at the bit to vote no. I mean, just think about like a Justin Amash or something, or somebody like that who just would, doesn't like Trump.
These are the old Cato heritage Republicans, right?
Absolutely, you're right, absolutely right. And even in this, let's just say it gets over to the Senate. You've got people like Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, who's, he didn't like the bill the way it was. He's saying, no, we can't mortgage our kids' futures over this. But it's an absurdity, Raheem. I mean, we have a $27 trillion national debt in this country, and he's saying, well, if we increase that by 1 or 0.2% more in order to send increased relief to people who've been out of work, that somehow we just can't afford that. That's the thing that's going to be the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah,
and so
and
this really
Chris,
puts Republicans in a weird political position.
Chris, I just cannot see, and I cannot bear the arguments, the fiscally conservative arguments from the same people who are happy to, toss $6 trillion, flush $6 trillion down some Baghdad bog, right? And what did that do? But for the American people, when the American public are suffering, no, we cannot increase the national debt as a result of that. That is the time that government is supposed to utilize the whatever it is. I mean, look, I don't think the financial system as we currently have it is even good, but the way the system works at the moment, it is supposed to be used in the very worst cases in the national interest. It seems like it's always used in anything but, Chris.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. Look, I was sent a text from a somewhat well-known, not like a somewhat well-known House member. And he's sort of ranting on and on about, well, it wasn't the COVID relief bill. It was actually in the attached bill, which is the authorization to, this continuing resolution to keep the government funded. And I don't know why people are getting up in arms about, $700 million for Sudan or whatever. That was actually in a different bill. But he's getting stuck. He's getting stuck on the process. Nobody cares about the process. Right? That's not the point. The point is that you're sending all this money abroad, or on all these ridiculous priorities like propping up failing colleges and universities in this country who are teaching people anti-American gibberish. And in the meantime, you're being stingy with the American people. Like, that's what America First is about, is that the primary responsibility of government is to make sure that the lives of Americans are better. And, the COVID response has been a fiasco, but you've got all that. But look, if you're just some person who's out of work or isn't making enough money in Michigan or California, you can say, well, that's Newsom or that's Whitmer. It doesn't matter. I mean, yes, that's true, but that person still needs relief. And if the government's going to be doing relief and spending money on anything, I sure would rather be sending it to those people rather than to Sudan or to the gender programs in Pakistan.
Chris, we're up against the break here. Just to remind people, where can they follow you and your work?
amgreatness.com, of course. That's the home of American greatness, or on Twitter @TheChrisBuskirk.
All right, wonderful. And thank you so much for joining us here. We're going to make sure you come back regularly. Chris Buskirk's always, I think, at the cutting edge of the America First movement and what it really means and what it should mean and how it's been kind of used and abused by these establishment Republicans for your vote that you gave them. You bought it. And what have they done in return? I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more after this break. Well, from everyone here, have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll be with you all the time throughout. Here on Real America's Voice, got plenty of programming over the next couple of days that you're not going to want to miss, so stick around and stay tuned. Stay tuned after this show. David Brody's Water Cooler is up next as well. And I've got a couple of things to wrap up with you before I rush on over to watch the final 20 minutes of the Manchester United and Everton match. And Everton Football Club. I'm going to teach you, pay attention. It's much better than American football, I promise you. And there's less, I won't say there isn't any because there is still loads, but there's less in the way of virtue signaling on a soccer pitch. Everton are called the Toffees. That's their nickname, is the Toffees. And my team, Manchester United, well, we're called, let's get the logo up here, the Red Devils. And as you can see, I am between this yellow here, which is, I got this in Charleston, I quite like it. Between that and the red, this is my Man United, and I kind of look like a football manager dressed like this as well. You see them on the sidelines, especially during international matches, dressed really properly out on the pitch. So there we go. I think we can lose that now as well. I want to also say a great big thank you to everybody who's joined up and signed up to the nationalpulse.com/support as a member in the last week. I'm going to read some of your names out here, as I always do, just as a thank you. It means the world to us. We're not big corporate backed. We don't have any big benefactors behind us. No billionaire, no Heritage Foundation type deal over here. We are deplorable backed, 100%. That's you at home. For as little as $5 a month, you can help support real news, real investigations. So I want to thank Pat, Richard, Brad, Gail, Ronald, Paul, Robert, Brian, Elizabeth, Molly, Murley, Tim, Vicky, Dorothy, Linda, Melanie, Bill, Stephen, Joseph, Michael, Liana, Stephen, Sharon, Dennis, Melinda, Godzilla, that is not John Fredericks, by the way, Kelly, Erica, Frank, Ingrid, Rhiannon, Jody, Arthur, Roger, Denise, Darcy, Mike, Samantha, and the list goes on. Some wonderful names in here, Roger and Darcy and Godzilla. I'm deadly serious, somebody signed up with the name Godzilla, and you're more than welcome to. Head on over to thenationalpulse.com/support. And I wanted to bring your attention to a few things before we leave today. And one of those things is the Kennedy Center and this apportionment from the Kennedy Center. Something in the last segment that you'll have noticed that Chris Buskirk said, and Chris Buskirk is just an incredibly smart man. One thing he mentioned was how the establishment, tweeters, the blue check marks on the left, other congressmen and the media, in the last sort of 24, 48 hours since this bill has come about, they turn around to angry people on the left and the right about this, or neither. You may be neither. You probably should be neither at this point in time. But they're turning around to us and they're saying, haha, you moron, that $40 million isn't in the COVID relief bill. That's in a different bill. You're missing the point. And what kind of sneering, smarmy DC establishment response is that, by the way? Haha, you got the wrong bill. Don't care where it is. I care that it's happening. It's still money that's being spent, money that could be spent on ordinary American people, towns, cities, infrastructure, people's livelihoods. But instead, we're giving it to this building on the Potomac where they have $500 million in assets that they own, that they hold. Over $500 million. In fact, if you scroll through this article that's the lead story in the National Pulse at the moment, the Kennedy Center is getting an extra $40 million, has $661 million in assets, and has been paying its executives 7-figure salaries with that. Think about that very carefully, because they already got $25 million in the last package. They're going to get another $40.4 million this time around. They're spending an inordinate amount. By the way, I've got no problem with the arts. Okay, I am a firm believer in the arts. I love to go to the theater. I've been to the Kennedy Center. I've sat in the presidential box at the Kennedy Center. I've watched the ballet. I've watched the Christmas caroling at the Kennedy Center. Marvelous place. But interestingly and importantly, the Kennedy Center is really actually supposed to be funded by benefactors, wealthy benefactors. I am a believer in the voluntary contributions to the arts, not the government underwriting, especially not of the liberal arts. Now, I do believe, and there is a big argument to be had in conservatism on this side, that actually, yes, we should have, and the president was smart enough to do it the other day, a level of government underwriting of what architecture, for instance, of federal buildings should look like. But that doesn't mean handing over $40.4 million for running costs to the Kennedy Center, when 63% of their money has come from donations from wealthy benefactors. Now, look, It's the wealthy benefactors, the people who can afford to give money to places like the Kennedy Center and write massive checks, $25,000, $50,000, $1 million, whatever it is. You get your name up there, etched on the walls in all of the programs. Really nice if you're a millionaire, multimillionaire, billionaire. You know, all of these people who are making money hand over fist right now, whether it's in the stock market or if you're the owner of Amazon.com, those are the people who should be propping up the Kennedy Center right now. Not the taxpayer. That money should be going into people's pockets. That money should be going directly to the businesses that are being abused by bad governance at the moment. Am I wrong? And if I'm wrong, I want you to tell me. But that is how I feel about that. I guess we've run out of time here. I had a lot more to cover, but I got on my soapbox. I want to thank everybody who's been involved in this show from the very beginning so far, and I want to wish everybody a very happy Christmas. We'll see you again over the next couple of days, and the War Room continues also 5 p.m. special. Stick around. David Brody and the Water Cooler is up next, and in the meantime, have a very Merry Christmas.